My parents destroyed my entire life for my golden child sister, but on my wedding day, they crossed a line I'll never forgive. They demanded my sister walk down the aisle first, in a white dress, with photographers and cake at my own wedding. For years, they treated me like a stranger while she got everything. My birthday cakes were her favorite flavor. My friends were banned because of her lies. My boyfriends were stolen by her manipulation. I was the forgotten daughter, the family disappointment. But this time I was ready. I had a plan that would expose them all and give them the humiliation they deserved. What happened next will shock you. My sister ended up crying on the ground in her wedding dress while the entire family watched in horror. You won't believe how this revenge unfolded. But before we continue, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new stories. Like this video and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. It really helps with promotion and inspires me to make new videos. Enjoy the story. Here we go. When I was little, I didn't fully understand what was happening, but I already felt like I wasn't loved at home. Not that they hit me, but all the warmth, care, and joy went to someone else. I had an older sister, and all the attention, pride, and praise were for her alone. On my birthday, the cake was always ordered to her taste, chocolate with cherries. I couldn't stand it, but my parents would widen their eyes and say, "Oh, what? Don't you enjoy getting her gifts and trips wherever she wants to go?" Even when it was my wish, my celebration. When I lost something, I was to blame. When she broke something, it was chalked up to an accident. And if she lied, they believed her. Even if I brought proof, I was still punished or at least scolded for being insensitive. At first, I tried to please them, did my homework, cleaned up on my own, didn't ask for anything extra, but it didn't change anything. My sister grew up spoiled. She ordered people around, made demands, and hurt me as she pleased. Sometimes she ignored me, and sometimes she just mocked me. When we became teenagers, it only got worse. She started having problems. Her friends turned away from her, maybe because they realized what she was like, or maybe they just got tired. On the contrary, I began to socialize. I made friends and acquaintances. And my sister couldn't handle it. She began to take revenge quietly, underhandedly. She told her parents that my friends were bad influences, that they weren't right for me, that they said nasty things and were jealous of our family. My parents believed her and forbade me from seeing them. "Why do you always want to go somewhere?" they asked. "Why can't you be like your sister at home, with family in the warmth?" Then I heard her say to my face, "If I don't have friends, you won't either." Once, at a family celebration, one of the adults invited me to go for a walk. I sadly replied, "I can't. I'm not allowed to have friends because my sister doesn't have any." The adults overheard this, and soon my parents were scolded by my grandmother, my aunt, everyone. Of course, I was punished afterward, told that I had lied and put the family in a bad light. But after that, they started letting me go out sometimes, and that was already a victory. My sister soon transferred to another school. They said it was for better education, but I knew it was because she couldn't bear the relatives knowing the truth. They enrolled her in a school far away, a private one. It didn't matter that it was expensive, as long as she was happy. From then on, she stopped pretending that I meant anything to her. She just took revenge constantly. Laughter behind my back, gossip, accusations, her friends would come and laugh at me. My parents said, "Oh, they're just joking. Don't take it to heart." But I didn't bring anyone home anymore. Instead, I grew closer to my cousins. They were my safe haven because my parents couldn't act that way with them. Since then, I knew my family wasn't just my mom and dad. My family was those who could hug me, listen to me, and not pretend I was nothing. That's what helped me survive in that house. When I turned 15, I suddenly realized she was afraid of me. Not in a literal sense, but in the way someone fears losing power. My sister noticed that I had changed, that I had become a young woman. She had always believed that only she could be beautiful, smart, and desirable in our family. And here I was, plain, quiet, and problematic, suddenly starting to attract attention. A boy from another class asked me out. We just talked and went to the movies twice, and then he stopped texting. I accidentally overheard my sister on the phone, telling someone, "Yeah, she tried to get with him, silly girl." I explained everything and he understood, but I felt physically ill. Then there was a boy from my English class. He even came to my house to pick up my notebook, literally for 10 minutes. But the next day, my sister said, "Listen, be careful with him. He asked for my number. He's kind of weird." After that, I started noticing strange things. My messages disappeared from my phone. Photos opened without me touching it. Sometimes I found strange hair clips in my room that her friends had left behind. They wouldn't let me breathe, but no one shouted or forbade anything. It was a different level, where they just made sure everything fell apart on its own. Once, I heard my mom tell my sister, "You're the adult one. You know how to do things right, and your sister is naive." Oh well, maybe she'll learn from you. Learn what? To lie, manipulate, and destroy someone else's self-confidence? I started locking my bedroom door. Then I discovered that someone had been sticking a needle into the gap to spy. So, I just threw away the key. After that, my sister started acting openly, defiantly. She would come home in short shorts when I had a guest in my room. She would laugh loudly and pretend to fall near him. My mom would calmly watch TV. Once, my boyfriend at the time came up to me and said, "Listen, I think she wants me to break up with you. I don't know what's going on between you two, but she's acting very strange." He was right. We broke up a couple of weeks later. I was so ashamed and hurt that I barely told anyone. Not because he was important, but because I felt trapped. It wasn't even envy. It was like I had trespassed on her territory. Like love, attention, and feelings belonged to her, and I had broken the rules. At school, I tried to stay out of the way. People looked at me with curiosity. Just an ordinary girl, but so withdrawn. I heard whispers behind my back. Someone was clearly saying something about my family, and at home, everything went on as usual. My sister flirted and put on a show. My parents either didn't notice or pretended everything was fine. One day, my dad said, "You're too sensitive. You imagine things. Your sister loves you. You just take everything to heart." No, Dad, I'm not imagining things. I just feel it all in my skin. Every jab, every look, every attempt to deprive me of my rights. Then I decided that if there was no room for my feelings or my love in this family, I would grow up and find a place where there would be. And I did. By graduation, I knew one thing. If you want to achieve something, rely only on yourself. But despite all the humiliation, deep down, I still hoped that maybe, just this once, my parents would treat me like a human being. My sister barely graduated from high school, without honors, without exams, but with high grades. But at home, it was a celebration, a cake. "You're a smart girl. We're so proud of you," my dad said, patting her on the shoulder. "University, of course, will pay for everything. What do you want? Economics, design, acting, any choice is yours." And then, one evening, my mom came into my room without any preamble. Calmly, as if she was talking about the weather. "We won't be able to pay for your education. Everything is going to your sister right now. You understand, don't you? But you can go to work, save up, and we'll see. Or you can live with us for now, but of course, you'll have to pay for food, part of the utilities, and rent for the room." I listened to everything in silence. They didn't even ask where I wanted to go. They didn't even ask about my grades, what I had taken, what I was interested in. I just realized at that moment that they didn't even consider me as a person with a future. It was like they had written me off. But I didn't throw a tantrum, didn't burst out. I just nodded and said, "Okay, I understand." My mom looked at me with slight surprise. Maybe she expected tears, a scandal, but I closed the door behind her and sat down at my desk. I took out my documents, calculations, tables, notes, everything I had accumulated over the years. While my sister was hanging out and complaining about stress from school, I was studying in silence, alone, without tutors or support. My room wasn't a prison. It was my little university. I applied to one university, then a second, then a third. I got in somewhere, didn't somewhere else. But one morning, I opened a letter. "You have been accepted on a full scholarship. Tuition, accommodation, and meals are provided." I reread it 10 times. Tears streamed down my cheeks, but not from happiness, from relief. I got out, not because of them, but in spite of them. At first, I wanted to leave quietly, just pack my things and disappear. But my boyfriend, the one I had met not long ago, said, "Why be silent? Let them know who they lost." And I decided to do it. I posted, "Thank you, Mom and Dad, for your support. Thanks to you, I got in. I knew you believed in me." The relatives saw the post. Congratulations, calls, reposts started coming in. And then, my mom came into my room again, nervous and tense. "Have you really decided to go? Are you sure you can handle it? It's hard there. No one will help you." Then she said the phrase I will remember for the rest of my life. "Your sister is having a hard time right now. Things aren't going so smoothly for her. And you're doing this on purpose." That's the whole point. Not "you're doing great," not "I'm proud of you," but "you're doing this on purpose." I left without hysterics, without farewells. At the train station, there was only him, the one person who was really there for me. And that day, I made a vow to myself. I will never let them control my life again. They lost the right to be my family advisors. Now I have my own voice. Freedom doesn't come immediately. You can leave, get in, live separately, but your mom's voice still echoes in your head. "You're too naive. You'll never know what's good and what's evil." I left, I studied, I lived, but I was still justifying myself to them. That's when he came into my life. Calm, confident, strong, but not rough. He didn't make grand gestures, didn't promise the moon. He was just there and never doubted me. For the first time in my life, I heard, "You're normal. It's them who have the problem." At first, I didn't believe it and said, "Well, maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe they just love me in their own way." He looked at me and said, "Love doesn't make you feel guilty every day." We dated for almost a year, and one evening, while walking along the waterfront, he said, "I want to marry you." I laughed through tears. "Are you ready for my wonderful family?" He smirked. "I've already made a plan. We'll fight fire with fire." I didn't immediately realize he was serious. "You don't have to take revenge," I said. "I just want them to leave me alone, and I want them to regret it," he replied. We didn't dream of a lavish wedding, more of a quiet day and a big trip instead. We wanted to go to Europe, just the two of us. But when we started planning, my mom reminded me of herself again. She called and said, "So, the wedding? Are you going to introduce us to the groom? We're your parents, after all." I said I'd think about it, but he insisted. "Let me go alone." "Don't worry." And I let him. He even took a small recorder with him, just in case for his collection if it got too crazy. He came back after a couple of hours, beaming. "Babe, you won't believe it," he said, laughing. "They've outdone themselves." I was confused. "What happened?" He sat down and said quietly, "They suggested that your sister walk down the aisle first, in a wedding dress, with photographs, with a bouquet at your wedding." I didn't believe it at first, thought it was a joke. He pulled out the recording. The voices were cold and calm, as if they were discussing the color of the tablecloths. "We can't let the younger daughter get married before the older one. It's just not right." My sister was on the recording saying, "I'll just walk a little, take a photo, no one will notice." I clenched my fists, my fingers trembled. "They think they can take my moment again," I whispered. "We'll let them," he replied. "But only for a while." We started making a plan, cold and calm, without hysterics. And it was the first time in my life that I felt like I had an ally. If they tried to take what was mine this time, they would bitterly regret it. They decided they could control my life again, that if they promised a little money, I would agree to everything. And my husband and I pretended to agree. He went to them alone again and said, "I talked to her. She's not thrilled, but you know how touchy she is. Let's do it quietly. If everything is done carefully, she won't even say anything." They took the bait, of course. My perfect sister walked around the house, shining like a bride. She was already discussing the photographer, the dress, the cake. My husband and I, meanwhile, were preparing everything our way. First, we made sure that all key conversations were only verbal. No texts, no voice messages. Everything on the level of trust. I'm a controlling husband, he joked. Your phone is locked, you're so jealous. And they believed it because they always thought I was weak, naive, and stupid. We chose the venue, the food, and the decorations. My parents, thinking they were in control, even started offering, let us pay for a better menu. These flowers are too simple. We'll add brighter ones. And my husband and I pretended we didn't want to burden them. He sighed in front of my sister. It's a shame, of course, but I don't want to abuse your family's generosity. And she would finish it off. Mom, Dad, are you really going to be stingy? So they paid for everything with a sense of generosity, even pride. We almost laughed, but we remained calm because the big day was ahead. We knew their plan. My sister would arrive 5 minutes before the start, come out in white while all the guests were seated, supposedly in honor of the older sister. She would walk down the aisle, take a few photos, and only then would I appear. They wanted it to look like an accident, but we made sure it was all accidental. We hired security, but not overtly. First, there was a girl with a tablet at the entrance checking the guest list. The Real Guard appeared later when my parents were already inside. My husband gave him clear instructions. Don't let my sister in under any circumstances, without conflict, calmly, and keep everything to yourself. We promised him a good bonus, and he didn't let us down. The wedding day arrived. All the guests were seated. My parents were smiling as if everything was going according to their plan. My sister was already on her way. We got a text. 5 minutes, everything is ready. My father gets up, as if to greet the bride. The music starts, but I walk alone in a beautiful dress with my head held high. My father is confused. He's waiting for someone else. He turns around, looks, but the entrance is already closed. At that moment, someone from the guests whispers loudly, "Where's the bride's father? Why isn't he walking with her?" And my friend, according to the script, whispers, "He said she wasn't supposed to walk first." And there was whispering, surprise, and slight tension in the hall. But I'm walking, calmly, confidently, and my husband's father greets me. He knew that was going to happen. He offers his hand, and at that moment, for the first time in my life, I feel like it's my day, and no one will take it away from me. I found out what happened at the entrance later. But believe me, it was even more interesting. I learned everything after. My sister actually arrived in a white dress, with makeup, a bouquet, and a smug smile. At the entrance, the guard stopped her. "Excuse me, you seem to have the wrong address. We already have a ceremony going on here." "What address?" she burst out. "I'm the bride's sister. I'm supposed to walk down the aisle first." It was agreed. "The bride is already in the hall," he replied calmly. "Please don't disrupt the event." My father tried to break through, shouting, "We paid for everything. This is our family. Let us in, or we'll call the police." "Of course," the guard replied. "Call them. I work officially under contract with the newlyweds." And then the panic began. My friend, the one with the acting skills, ran up and started shouting, "Are you crazy? Wearing white to someone else's wedding? You're just sick in the head." My sister threw a tantrum, sat right down on the ground at the entrance, crying, shouting, and kicking. My mom tried to explain to the guests, "It's all our son-in-law's fault. He promised," he agreed. "We just wanted our older daughter to feel like a princess for once in her life." But no one believed them anymore. When my husband came out to them, he put on the face of an innocent lamb. "What plan? What are you talking about? I would never allow such a thing. Are you crazy?" they shouted. "We discussed everything. You said it verbally. You offered it yourself." But he just shrugged. "Prove it." They didn't have a single text, a single recording, nothing. "Maybe you made it all up," he added. Relatives who came out to see what was going on began to frown. "Are you serious? You wanted one daughter to take the wedding away from the other? It's not just weird, it's hurtful." And that's when, for the first time in my life, I didn't look like a hysterical woman, and no one told me to calm down. My sister left with disheveled hair, dragging her veil behind her. My mom was as red as a beet, and my dad had a face full of malice. And I was celebrating not a wedding, but my freedom. The guests ate, drank, and congratulated me. Many said, "You're great. You've been through fire, water, and brass pipes." I just nodded and thanked them because on that day, for the first time, I felt seen. After the wedding, a new show began. Calls, messages, threats. My sister wrote nonsense, accused my husband, said that he had arranged everything himself and should marry her now. We collected the screenshots and sent everything to the family chat. My husband politely wrote, "Please make sure my wife doesn't receive threats during our honeymoon. If necessary, we will sue." Since then, there has been silence. Not a peep. Can't we start over? I'm not vindictive, but I used to lie in my room, hearing them talk about me behind the door. Now I opened that door and walked out myself. Now I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of, and I know for sure that I will never give away what belongs to me to anyone again. And if you've listened this far, it means it's close to you. Write in the comments what you would have done in my place. Like this video if the story touched you, and of course, subscribe so you don't miss other real stories. Many thanks.